Oh, sorry.
I mean, who is that?
It was me last time.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have one agenda item, then we have some executive session issues. The item on the agenda, which was put on last week, is the 40 North Ferry Road, future and immediate plans. Just a real quick summary. In 2018, after the town had purchased the land, the resolution set the rates for the rent. Then it also said, be it further resolved that such tenancy shall continue on a month-to-month basis with the guarantee that no tenant in good standing shall be asked to leave prior to November 1st, 2019, after which the owner may require the tenant or tenants to vacate the premises upon 3 months' notice. We've known that we've had that in place. We had some informal discussions what we're going to do with the building, but once COVID hit, we didn't feel it was the time to displace people, displace renters when it was a very tough time to find a place to rent. I have all sorts of documents here. I have the original engineer's report prior to the town buying it. I have a report that Brian did for us in 2021, telling us there's asbestos and lead in the building. I have a report from John Cronin. He was the town engineer. I have a report from the building inspector with his comments. Just go over my notes here. Specifically, the walls, windows, and doors, peeling paint, rot damage, underlying wall and framing material couldn't be assessed. This is from the actual engineer. The interior, the stone foundation wall is bowed out. The crawl space wasn't assessed. The initial report was for like a homeowner's guide, so we're going to kind of pass on that one. It's available. It's in the public record. John Cronin, when he inspected it as the engineer, the crawl space beams are inadequate. The main cellar beam is inadequate. Wood decay and rot on the building sill. South floor bathroom is decayed. Lead paint in the interior trim. Building department found that the foundation walls are in disrepair. The bathroom floor needs to be replaced. Too many extension cords, outlets needed. Lead asbestos abatement and rotted wood in the siding and the trim. So we talked about, obviously, it's a couple things. One, it's an eyesore. So if we wanted to go in and paint the building, to me, it's throwing good money into bad. We're going to try to paint it. If we're going to scrape it, we have to contain the lead paint. We're going to.
Reed's not sure there's lead paint on the outside.
There is on the trim. We have tests.
Oh, the trim.
Yeah, we have tests. If we strip it or power wash it, we're going to establish all sorts of rot that's going to have to replace everything. Bottom line is the town's responsibility is health and safety issues. Healthy wise, that doesn't meet it. To renovate, Al Kilb would always say, anything can be renovated. We renovated town hall, we renovated the trailer at the landfill. You can renovate anything, but there comes a point where you got to cut your losses.
Right.
And to renovate, to knock down the building and dispose of it, Brian estimated it'd be about at a maximum $80,000. That includes getting rid of the asbestos roof,
Right.
which is $30,000 on its own.
And okay, let me just add this, Jerry. To renovate a building that's on a campus that also needs some
Well,
attention.
I'm not even addressing that
If
part.
it was a standalone
Exactly,
building, we could have a chat.
Right.
Because it's not a
Exactly.
standalone building,
Yeah.
I don't even think it's, there's
Right.
not that much to talk about. It needs to
Yeah.
come down
And
and become part of a
yeah.
bigger
And to
plan.
renovate it, we're talking 300,000 plus, and really dealing with the 3 apartments you have there. It's not really
Yeah.
adding anything or making anything. So again, I as usual in Facebook, people are saying we're terrible landlords and, how can we let this happen? Again, we didn't want to displace the people.
So
We know it's a problem. I think it's come to the time where we need to make a decision.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to comment on, the people that comment on Shelter Island Local, it's been going on for weeks now about the poor condition of Route 114, and specifically about 40 North Ferry. Couldn't agree with you more. It's a point of emphasis that needs to be looked at critically as we move forward. So there's no defense, I think we're all keenly aware of the fact that a lot more can be done. I'm excited to see the work of the comprehensive plan and what they're talking about for 114, and how best to upgrade Route 114. It's a lot of work, and in the next administration, I think we're going to have to spend some time in our downtown area.
Let me just
to do this.
inform you, the comp plan won't be saying how best to. I'll just say.
The need.
should be done.
Should be done, right?
Facilities master plan for the center of
Right,
town.
exactly.
On 40 North Ferry, the single-family home, which is composed of 2,900 square feet, 5-bedroom, 4 bathrooms, it's a single-family dwelling built in 1925. That makes it 98 years old now, next door, 98 years. When that first went on the market back in 2017, I was on the board. I was my second year on the board at $895,000 through Corcoran, and went down to $830,000. We ended up purchasing it on September 9th, 2018 at $684,000. That's in the public record. It had been previously sold, by the way, in 2005 for $750,000, which, by the way, was $70,000 more than we spent for it. 13 years later. So we actually we bought that property with the idea that exactly what BJ has just cited. If this home is it wasn't part of a complex here, it would be a different story. But there's we really do have to take a hard look at how we're going to best utilize this property. So I think we have to I think what the people are asking us to come up with a game plan. And the game plan, and one of the things that I've seen also on a very positive thing on Shelter Island Local is a number of people in the last few months have been advertising, I need a room, I need this, and I need that. And the strength of the community is that people have actually responded to the needs of those particular individuals, giving them leads on, I have somebody, you have somebody, there's a situation here where we can remedy that. So that's a very positive thing. So I think, a lot of times people comment on the negativity. A lot of good things are on Shelter Island Local that really help people in terms of finding housing for themselves. So that's a positive. But what I would like to see is the first thing is, and I know some of the tenants have already started to do this, because months ago we had informed them that the end was in sight for having people there, that we needed to empty that building because of the condition that it was in. I think we have to have that conversation again. We have to help people relocate. Once they're relocated,
I don't know how.
to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
To the best of our ability, maybe Shelter Island Local is the way to go. And that's the reason I brought that up is because it has been working for people.
Yeah.
So I know one of the tenants has been looking upstate, and a couple of the people that live there are town workers, and we would love to, work within the town here. We'd love to be able to keep them here on the island. So we're going to try to accommodate that as much as we possibly can.
I think
But
one of
the
the best
building
things,
we need a game plan for the
one of
building.
the best, just because step one is the building has to become vacant.
Yes,
So, if we talk about steps forward.
yep,
And lead time has to be allowed. So I think we need to come up with date certain,
Yes.
you know, even in the absence of a plan, even in the absence of,
Oh, yeah.
you know, just a date, and by that, and to give them enough time to resettle their lives and to know that we're going to do it this time. So
Yeah.
I think that's one. Two, we have to hire, I would think, a planner.
Yeah. Yeah.
To, for the, you know, project specific, not,
Right.
you know, on open-ended employment.
Right. Yeah. How best. and-
Facilities.
Yeah.
An RFP for someone to help redesign
Yeah.
facilities in the center.
Yeah. There's no
First we
question
take
about
that
that.
Yeah.
And that is the game plan.
Yeah.
That is the. and
It's going to come down, we can
Yes.
do that ahead of time, you know, before, or it can be at the same time.
Yep.
That the plan is being developed, the building can be in the process of emptying and being taken down. Just given the conditions that Jerry just cited, I think that we can't really in good conscience, you know,
It's been $300,000 or $400,000.
the kind thing was to, you know, the housing is so short, the kind
Yes.
thing has been, you will stay as long as you can. Now, the deterioration is not, it's not necessarily the kind thing anymore.
Right.
And COVID restrictions have
And it is
lifted.
very true. The pandemic played a major role in this.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, pandemic wasn't something that went on for a month or two. It went on for several years. And we felt as a town board, you know, when, especially housing was shortage, everybody moved out here during the pandemic. And there was no housing available. So now that, you know, now is the time. Now is the time to develop that plan. We have to stick to a timeline. We have to, any kind of assistance we can help, you know, even if we bring people and talk to them about possible avenues to look, that should be a high priority list. And then having an RFP out for somebody, a planner to come in, take a look at the existing structures, what we have here. We know that there's a need for additional parking. We know there's a need for community bathrooms, because there are no community bathrooms of all the functions that happen in the center of town. It's more than just the needs of town government. It includes beautification, maintaining, you know, and starting the process right here on town property to expand it along 114B. And I think as we are doing this, by the way, I would love to be able to sit down with some people and try to game plan. Do we have any role? Can we have any role? Do we have any responsibility in terms of trying to bring, whether it's the merchants or getting the merchant together, commerce people together, and trying to have some type of game strategy. We're not going to change 114 overnight, but maybe there are bits and pieces of it that we can work on to improve. You know, we need to make that effort. The downtown area is, however, I will say, the building across the street going to look a lot better. The library is expanding. The two old buildings, 1938 versions that are now 85 years old, there's a game. We have improved the look of Justice Hall, police headquarters, new windows, brick pointing, new roofs. Now we're doing ADA compliance. These are historic buildings that we're trying to keep. You know, they talked about historic buildings. Those are buildings that were in good condition, that were worth salvaging. This is not. That's what separates this building from those two buildings just to the north of that.
I also think that private ownership, you know, somebody owns those buildings.
Yeah.
And I just don't know I'm not that comfortable with expanding the role of government in that way. I know that there's a carrot that is used out there, you know, incentives, and I know that there are sticks out there, but it's not to sound like, you know, fogey here, but it's not really a Shelter Island thing. You know, that we do that. So I don't know. For me, let's stick to the knitting, which is what we can easily and should
Sure, yeah.
control and
Yep,
improve.
yep.
And then when that's done, you know, I mean, we have to admit that we're limited in man hours here.
Well,
You know,
and
What the government's role is.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
the other side of it is, if the town hall looks better, if that building isn't here, if
Yes.
the library looks better, the Legion looks better, then people have more interest in being in this area.
Yeah.
So that will bring people
And hopefully
in.
business will follow.
Right.
Because there'll be a demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only
Yeah.
thing I do
Yeah,
agree with you
yeah.
about our role as government, but we are the lead agency on a lot of things here in terms of trying to bring the parties together to have a discussion. I don't say that we solve the problem,
Right.
but if nobody else is taking the initiative out there to look at possibilities of how, brainstorm, I'd bring people together. Bring people together. It's not the worst thing in the world. Have a 10-year plan where you look up and down critical areas of 114 where we could make some inroads. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I don't see this happening without some type of leadership from somebody. You know, whether it's town or somebody else, but it's truly something that people have been asking for a long time, is the condition of 114. And there are little things, I know many, many years ago when we looked at, what's his face's construction place down the road here,
Marcello?
what's the name again?
Marcello?
Margello, yeah. That we curb cut, bushes in front, got rid of the concrete, and we tried to the best of our ability, and he cooperated.
Yeah.
He did do some of those things. It does look better than it did. It's a small, every little bit helps, but somebody has to bring those parties together. Not our responsibility, I agree. But until we have somebody that's willing to do that, you know, whether the Lions Club would like to get involved, or this club would like to get involved, and the Chamber of Commerce would like to get involved, these are all different age groups of people that could get involved, that maybe we put all our heads together, we come up with some type of game plan. Again, a decade-long game plan of how we can make inroads here on 114.
Yeah.
I'm just, I think we need to like come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the idea of displacing tenants when there's really no place for them to find housing. And that's why we have been so slow
Right.
to act, but we also are not private landlords, and therefore it's not our money that
Right.
we'd be putting into the building to fix it up. It's public money.
I don't want to do a temporary fix. I think that's
I mean,
always.
that's been our thing, and like we need to figure out the whole campus.
Right.
My feeling is we notify the tenants, give them 3 to 4 months to get out. We take the building down.
Yeah.
Then we decide on, put an RFP out for a plan.
I think
I don't
before
think we
then,
need a plan before. I think we need to act, let's start with what we have.
I think you act, but why can't contemporaneously?
Because
Is that the
I
right
think the capital plan is going to be very involved with community input.
I want the capital plan done and the comprehensive plan done before we do an RFP for planning a
Right.
Really?
Yeah, I
So that's 2024.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to address the immediate,
Yeah.
again, health and safety
Yeah.
I
issue.
said that at home. Once that building
Yeah.
comes down, you just throw grass seed on it.
I mean, there's so many things that you need in place
Yeah,
first. We
right.
need to have a full evaluation of what we currently have.
Right.
And that's that
Yeah.
capital
And what the
plan,
future
then
needs are going to be.
What
Yes.
it needs, exactly. It needs a needs assessment, it needs a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
But that
Yeah, I
needs assessment would
started-
be a planner, no?
Yeah, there
Could you
are
break it
companies
into
out there.
smaller-
I started to do research a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. And, there are companies out there that do, planning, and like the architectural piece, but also the planning piece. But it was gonna cost us at least $125,000 to get a proper facilities master plan, where they would come in and, interview staff and understand what are your work needs.
Right.
The fact that, we're in here, we get booted periodically because we're trying to get town hall work
Periodically,
done, because
yeah.
we don't have a place to, other than home, but then we don't have access to the people that we want to talk to as we're doing our work. So,
Yeah.
to come in and actually do that kind of interviewing, so it's not just, it's a facilities master plan, but it incorporates the human capital as well.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I look at your building, I mean, if we could put a second floor on that, there's so many possibilities here.
We also want to look at the potential for housing next door.
Yeah, with incorporated into the
Or
plan.
above.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
When I was helping one
Yeah.
of my daughters move one time, I was like, oh, look at all this housing above storefronts.
Yeah.
Like, why don't
Yeah.
we think about this in our center of town?
And it is in the plan, the housing plan. Above storefronts, but above offices is equally valid. But really, the waiting bothers me.
So the waiting is, we're starting.
Oh, I mean, to not.
No, I mean, to start,
It's not putting the cart before the horse. You
Right.
have to you have to collect all the information before you can move forward. So we're still kind of working on that we don't have the capital plan done. We don't have we're missing pieces. It's
right.
not,
I don't see where the comp plan is that, I mean, the comp plan's gonna say,
it's already, we need a facilities master plan is in the comp plan. Like, I totally agree with you. It's just,
not something that would be objectionable, it's not we're changing zoning, we're just, you know,
But it's something that if you then, like, I'm not sure if the facilities master plan would have to go to the planning, so like Suffolk County Planning, I don't know where it would get referred to, but then they would want to see that it works with your comprehensive plan, and, there's all these checks and balances, so.
I mean, there's a lot of issues that we're not even addressing is we have the sewage treatment
right?
that we're trying to get done. Well, that's going to change completely if,
If we have to squeeze in IA systems, right, life,
Correct.
it's gonna look different here.
again, I just, BJ, I just feel we should attack the immediate problem, which is the physical building
Right.
and the people in it. And then,
And keep your minds open to maybe
absolutely.
talking about RFP in the early summer.
so I-
I'm making a note to myself because we're in the capital planning process
Yeah.
right now, where all department heads are supposed to be pulling together what their
Their
needs
needs
are, so
are.
that we can look at the next 5 years. So we as the town board can take the lead on putting in the request for.
And then just so the
facilities master
public
plan.
understands,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a wish list. We're not going to have
Right.
an office for every committee,
No.
you know.
No,
it's-
oh gosh, no, but maybe 2 meeting rooms.
Yeah,
We do
yeah.
need to. We do need
The
to.
good news-
Public
Because the-
bathrooms.
Yeah, because the overlap.
And maybe just a couple of desks that people can come and use,
We have to get comfortable with a bond.
Yeah.
I mean, that it just has to be a comfort level, and so maybe right now isn't, if we do tip, interest rates maybe, again, there might be more than one reason to delay just a little bit, but,
I want to get back to the step number one about the relocation of the 3 tenants that are there. It's not an apartment complex with 21 families. It's 3 tenants. It's not Mission Impossible. No, I get it. I know the challenges.
Yeah.
But I've seen success.
Yeah. Jim,
that's up to them.
I think the good thing is,
Yeah.
I don't think that's.
well, I think,
Need to.
I think the good thing is, before we even send an official notification, they're gonna know. The public's gonna know.
Sure.
So I'm sure the process is already starting, or maybe this one has a place of that one. So, I mean, if we can facilitate something, fine, but ultimately, it's not our,
Yeah,
No, it is not
it's
our
the right thing to do, but it's,
I'm a little different than the 2 of you. It's not our responsibility, but it is a nice gesture on the part.
Right.
They have been our tenants. If we can help them, we can assist in some way, shape or form, pointing them in the right direction. It's helpful. I don't say that it's,
Jim, I have two long-term acquaintances looking for housing, and I have nothing. I mean, I've not, so on a personal level, I don't even know where I would go with that. I mean, they're searching on the, local websites and doing all that themselves, having no luck, and with children in school. I mean, which makes it even more, to me, a dramatic need. Because, over here, at least we're not talking about young children that you have to uproot. I'm just saying that it's, it's hard, no matter what, and I don't know how we could help.
so I think the first step is we should notify them that,
Well, Mr. Supervisor, so is the town board in agreement that it'll be 90 days, 90-day notice?
I said 90 to 120, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, because of
you
the
have
current
some-
situation, Stephen, it's, 90, it's gonna be hard to find something.
Yeah, May is
well, it's not going to get any easier as we approach the high season.
Correct, so,
Yeah.
and also there is this.
Yeah, March, April, May.
the Unsafe housing, so we can't put it off too long, and I
Right.
think 90 days is generous. The law says it's 30 days, so 90 days is triple what we.
Well, in the resolution, I mean, I don't know if that holds weight, but it said they would give 3 months' notice. The town said that.
I say we stick with 90
Well-
days. If you can't do it by May, it's not going to get any easier, May, June, July.
Oh, absolutely.
You put the.
I think 90 days is sufficient.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, so just for the record, I'll prepare notice to the tenants, giving them 90 days.
Right,
Thank you.
Yep.
okay. In the meantime,
Yeah.
we'll see if we have to contract with the asbestos people, get on the calendar at least to remove the,
See if Reed has anything.
Reed, do you have anything to add?
Nothing. Nothing in particular. I was asked earlier about possible lead. It's possible there are a couple of windows that have lead, but.
Well, we tested, we have the report, we have
Yeah, we have the whole.
asbestos on the roof and lead both inside and outside, on the trim.
On the trim, yes, the siding's been replaced, and I don't think all the trim, because I think a lot of the trim is actually.
Yeah. Now, when I took asbestos, I believe we took an asbestos roof off the Pink House. When we did it, there was nothing special.
Well, the
It was
thing is,
intact.
the asbestos shingles are non-friable.
Right.
And so ultimately, even if they're remediated properly, they still go to the town dump.
Yeah.
It's actually the Department of Labor that oversees that, because what they're concerned about is not that it getting into the environment because it's non-friable. It's that the workers might get exposure to it in the course of cutting it up. So you have to be a trained asbestos abatement contractor.
Right.
But if it's friable, then it goes to the nearest, not FEMA, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
Transfer.
EPA approved, and the nearest one is in Pennsylvania. There's also one up around Albany, but
You got to make sure it gets where it's going.
Yeah.
We've had that issue.
Yeah. Not into a nearby
the
river.
shingles would not be a big deal because they.
I mean, with the price in 2021 was 30,000 removed and taken away. So I'm sure it's kind of,
Okay.
all right.
Thanks, Reed.
By the way, just as you mentioned that about the removal of growing problem, Theo has mentioned, and all the big politicians from the state have mentioned, that individual towns should not be stuck with trying to solve the solid waste problem. It's got to be a regional issue, that the state has to address it. And it's a problem for all of Long Island. It's Nassau and Suffolk.
Yeah.
This problem is not going away. It's going to hit us smack in the face, and you guys are going to be on the board in another year and a half when this hits you smack in the face. What do we do with this stuff? So regionally, I think you have to put the pressure on now to find, the state has to get involved with this.
Well, Connecticut, hopefully, Ken Lewis, or, because Brian's towards the end, but, that's a big chewy thing for
Yes.
a public works. But Connecticut, I know, is aiming to ramp up their waste to energy. Waste, that's not the correct lingo, but where they burn the waste in such a way that it doesn't add to pollution and it becomes energy. And because Connecticut's recognizing what you're talking about, that there's going to be no place to go, or if there is a place to go, it's going to be so expensive to get it there.
Correct.
And their goal is within the decade to be self-sufficient when it comes to disposal of their own trash. So composting, all the things we know about.
And I think you're finding now with the latest rail derailment there with all the chemicals, people say, yeah, you bring it to my state, you're lugging these to Texas, you're going to Pennsylvania, you're going up to Ohio, you're taking it out to Michigan. We don't want it.
Well, you're old enough to remember.
Sort of like wastewater.
Right.
Remember the garbage barge?
Yeah, yeah.
It was up and down the East Coast,
Right.
or, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a new problem.
No, it's not a new problem, but you're going to have to you can't find places that want to accept this stuff.
Yeah.
PJ, just on your topic, Brian's working with a consultant to, we've been approached a couple of times about an incinerator at the dump.
Oh, really?
Everybody gets crazy. It's, it's DEC approved. It's, and there's two of one just to burn it. Then you have the ash that's marketable, or the other would, create electricity.
Energy supply, yeah.
So he's working with the consultant to try to, get us on board with the DEC and get a grant. Or the grant money will be there, but it's just, we want to try to be the pilot
Yeah,
of this program.
that would be awesome. Do we know, is there any other in Suffolk County right now?
No, there's none in New York State,
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
but it's approved now.
Yeah.
So we're trying to,
Yeah,
get it, we've been working on this for 2 years.
that's
We're
great.
trying to get, in the forefront.
Really great.
And Brian does work with the Association of Highway
Yes.
Superintendents.
Yeah.
Working on this problem, at least Long Island line.
All right, that would be great if that's, could be his crowning. Out the door, chief.
Okay, all right, so we know where we're going with this? It's the first step.
Yes, we've got Stevens on it, and,
Okay, that's actually it for the agenda items. We'll go around the table. Amber, Meg and I went to, and Amber, and new Amber, went to the Association of Towns meetings. We'll report on that, but before we do, Jim, you have anything?
Just the fact that we met with the pedestrian walkway now initially, and that's that's the potential walkway that we would combine the town, do the southern half, and the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation would do the northern half of a proposed pedestrian pathway that parallels New York Avenue on the east side of the road, safely away from the road itself, trying to get pedestrians the ability to be able to move from four-way stop near Leon's up into the center and up into the north end of town to the and to Bridge Street and vice versa the other way around. And we had a good meeting. Stella was there, Lori Beard Raymond, Joe Fedora, Jim Reed, Brian Sherman, Amber, and I. And we went through the options. We walked the entire length of the property. We saw some issues that have to be resolved. Our biggest issue for the town on the south end would be the last 150 feet near the stop signs. Well, we where there, it goes down a little bit of a ravine. Brian doesn't see that as a huge problem. He was there with Joe. They talked side by side. They think they have a possible solution. He's got plenty of fill to be able to put in that area. It doesn't have to be ADA compliant. Again, we're looking at something about 6 feet wide, not more than that. We would still be talking about perhaps using a surface like they use over the golf course, for the golf carts, that compact stuff that would, be used. The other problem came when we went to the old ball field, going through the old ball field, that it does flood in that area. So near the creek, we'd have to move it back. And then Stella said, I don't know that the heights, once that path going right through the middle of the ball field, would we not favor the hill area closer to the road? It's well off the road, and that's not a problem because we can angle it right over there. And then there's a little bit of an issue once we get up to the northernmost portion because you get into wetlands things. So Stella wanted some time to go back to talk to, her people, and I think we can work this out. I think we're fairly optimistic that we can get this done, but it's still in the discussion stage. We should know something more in a couple of weeks as Stella works through her end, and Joe and Brian work through our end down here. But that would be the goal. So that's
Jim, just a little history on this. A couple of years ago, I guess it was, Amber, we had the ability to get grant money for this.
right.
And we met with the Heights. It would have been a public-private thing. We met with the Heights, but the requirements were such that, it would have to be handicapped access. It would have to meet, certain standards. And it was very, very involved. And we just felt that what the timing wasn't right. We didn't want to rush into this project. So the discussion then came up, well, why don't we do something like we have with all the old CPF properties? Just make a nice walking path that people can use. And so that's kind of,
Right.
where we are right now. Brian feels that maybe we can use the reconstituted pavement that when they break the roads up, and that's what they use. That's what we use at the landfill on the one side, and that's what they use. Jim said at the trails on the golf course. So we might be able to do something like that. But it's not going to be an official, formal path. It's going to be just to hopefully get people up New York Avenue.
Right. So it's much more simplified because we don't have to be ADA compliant, and we're not looking initially to take bicycles. If bicycles happen to go down there, that's fine, but basically it's for pedestrians to get them back and forth. So, yes, Jerry is entirely correct. That was a downtown revitalization grant where we had Jonathan Keyes and Bridget Fleming and a whole bunch of politicians that were eager to get that done. But as we discussed, it wasn't a high priority list. It was money that we didn't have at that time that we were looking to get into other projects. And so we kind of poo-pooed that at that particular time. But right now, since we're taking care of the parking down near the Leons, this would be a great little way for people to be able to walk from the North Ferry on a nice path coming down through there. If they want to go to the restaurant or they want to go down to Sunset Beach, it takes people off the road. It's not a very wide road at that particular point, and people could safely, it'd be very pretty, by the way. It's a very nice walk. The other thing I will share with you is I had a really extensive meeting with the local government on February 22nd, which I think was last Wednesday. I talked a little bit about partnerships, talked about the New York State DEC grant database tool, and several other things. But I created the notes. I have the notes available for all of you. I'm going to distribute those notes. And what I'll do for the paper is for both papers, is I will email you those so that you have them. Okay, it's fairly extensive. There's a lot of good information here. So I'll send it out that way. Save everybody a little bit of heartache. Yeah.
Okay. EJ?
Let's see, we had a special WQ, it's been so long, you know?
Yeah.
Like it was last year sometime. So we had a special WQI meeting, actually, a few of the committees are really using this off-season to great productivity. And a few of our committees are struggling with quorums, just to have that out there again. So WQI was a special meeting, a small bit of it dedicated to Fresh Pond Project. There was a small request relative to the bigger request for Fresh Pond for $6,000 plus dollars to do an admittedly short-term solution in terms of harvesting lily pads and algae mats. I'm sort of a visual processor.
Is that part of the 6,000 we took out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and now it's back, well, they recommended it.
Okay.
For 401 recusal to, Greg Toner carried the ball, did the work to make sure that it's scientifically backed as a way to reduce toxins over a season, and it is. So that was that. And then the rest of the discussion was about the Cornell Cooperative Extension Habitat Restoration Proposal, which we're all familiar with. Just to refresh, 10,000 eelgrass shoots, a lot, 100,000 scallops, 250,000 clams, 10 million oysters. That's what the project would hope to introduce into Cockles Harbor primarily.
Is that the first year?
Yeah, I think so. There, in one of the articles that was presented at the WQI meeting by Chris Pickerel, was a meta-analysis of studies done worldwide. And in that, and the takeaway in that analysis was that it matters what size matters. So any place where they've tried to plant less than 1,000 shoots and/or seeds, not much of a success rate, 20% or less. When you get to the 10,000 and above, I hope I have those right, so cut off in my head, but I believe the number is 10,000 and above, it doubles. The success rate is 40+%. So a lot of people are going to question 40%, but 40% is significant. The other thing that was discussed that evening was it matters if it's an extension of an existing field. Again, the size issue, to start a whole new eelgrass bed in a place where it doesn't exist, even if you've done the science, it seems to me that this is a good site is more difficult for a lot of reasons versus doing what we're going to attempt to do here in Cockles Harbor, which the Baymen have told us is already better than it's been in years. Well, let's try to build on that and make Cockles Harbor just the maximum healthy it can be in terms of this entire ecosystem. So there's that.
Kevin, am I the host? Just in case.
Good call.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
I was starting to panic.
I know.
No. He said he was going to make me host just because.
Yes, you're right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we're
Kevin.
down
Yeah.
clerical staff today, so I'm now in charge. Please, no one.
Oh, my gosh. There was other, discussion, a more extensive discussion of the science behind this. I found it convincing, but more importantly, interesting. And ultimately, the WQI voted 4-0 to support spending up to the 200,000 requested for the project. I just thought that was kind of important. I always have to look at my calendar to see what else I've done. So yesterday was
WAC.
WAC. Do you want?
I have
You have
the,
notes? Oh, you have it posted, great.
yeah, so I'll actually turn my camera
There's
on.
one in front of Jerry, a black and white one.
Black and white version, yeah.
This is, just to give an intro, it's Lisa Shaw's son, who's a graphic
Adam,
artist.
yeah.
Adam. Hagan, who came up with that design, and just to have it posted around. As somebody mentioned, right?
So what they have is, it's really to help educate people on how to dispose of their medications properly. I don't know if you can see that. But it's, please do not flush, pour, or dispose of drugs, and then it tells you where you can dispose of them appropriately. So one of the things that WAC wanted us to look at was whether or not we should put the town seal on it. You know, is it a town committee? Do we want to have it labeled that it's town supported, this initiative? And then, you know, they were going to put it in different places around town, you know, put it on like the poster board at the Islander, you know. So that was one of the things that Lisa's been working on for a little bit. And it looks good. So just wanted to bring that up.
So if you have any input,
You know, it's funny, because when we talked about, you know, the wastewater and, you know, the future contaminants, I just assumed it was like through bodily functions I never realized, you know, you people are pouring this stuff out.
flushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for example, discard your medications in the blue boxes located inside the Heights Pharmacy or at the police department. And then all sharps, unused syringes can be dropped off at Eastern Long Island Hospital on Tuesdays. So that's just some helpful information. But yeah, so they just wanted us to see if we can put the town seal on it, and then they can get them printed and put them up places for people.
Right.
So that was one of their,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good one. And then they also discussed, they talked about public water, like sort of debating how to educate the public on water quality in their area, and also different means of gathering data about water quality when it is such it's, you know, everything's a private well, it's all, you know, so trying to brainstorm ways to collect data without kind of giving away people's personal information. So just kind of brainstorming on those topics. It was kind of.
Water, also, I thought, kind of emphasized was not a door-to-door survey or mailing out a survey. Figure out a way that people could answer it anonymously without them duplicating or tripling their you know, answering it too often, that those sort of survey kind of issues. And then, but step one was going to be a couple of members of WAC are going to have a chat with Joe Picorni and discuss, you know, areas that might really be needing for either because of nitrate or salt questions might be needing.
So BJ, in the comprehensive plan, the final comprehensive plan, will it be that the town should look into, you know, water quality, or are they gonna say, look at?
That's a good question. I don't think because that's in your environmental chapter.
It's in the environmental chapter. It recommends both. It recommends public water and public wastewater because they impact each other. So it's going to take time to remediate the quality of the groundwater. And in that time, people are going to be drinking non-potable water. So, you know, it's twofold. It's provide the public with potable water where it's compromised, whether it be high nitrates or saltwater intrusion, and then remediate wastewater so that we slow down and stop the pollution that we already have occurring. Because you kind of have to do all of it in order to clean the cycle. And so then that brings up people's fear of increased density and that kind of thing. So that came up in the discussion yesterday where it's like, okay, well, it's a public health issue. Water quality is a public health concern. And so you can't let fears of zoning affect the public health issue. So you need to acknowledge that that's a problem and figure out ways to control your zoning, but don't let that zoning control be at
The reason you
risk
don't.
of the public health.
Right. So my suggestion was that we, in the comp plan, if we are recommending, if that's ultimately with the public,
Right.
you know, because as long, you know, we're at the very beginning. Anyway, that we need to be open to the idea that public water might be necessary in sections of Shelter Island, then I suggested that maybe we couple that with public water should not be used by any future town boards as a route to increase density.
Right.
That you take that fear
Yeah,
off the table, so that people
Right.
so that we can deal with the public health issue without the complicating
Right.
other issue. And so
That's good.
it was a really good chat.
Trying to sort out some way to restrict
Yeah,
the downzoning.
right,
Essentially
exactly.
is the goal, but not using the lack of infrastructure to do that, which is technically what's happening now.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this WAC, you know.
So needless to say, it was a good, long discussion,
Yeah.
about 2 hours.
All of us there nerd.
Anything else, Meg?
No.
Anything, let's start with the Association of Towns? Anything of interest?
Oh, we did, CPAC, thank you, BJ, yeah. So we were so tired.
Blur.
So we had a good CPAC meeting last night. We discussed the fact that we have a consultant that we're going to be bringing on board. No, they weren't there. We were discussing it amongst ourselves, and
They
then
weren't technically.
we're going to technically hire them tonight, and then we'll set up a meeting with the CPAC to go over the plan moving forward and how the professionals are going to organize it. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah.
And so we had a really good discussion about that. And then Lily brought up some concerns regarding housing and how, the primary concern with even just ADUs is going to be enforcement. And we did discuss a little bit about the CDCLI loan program, and we explained that that's actually a grant that CDCLI is receiving from the state, and that homeowners will have to apply for that directly. So it's not actually something that the town is initiating. And so
So when you apply, you still have to
you
do.
still have to go through the
our
full
Right.
Zoning, our building permit.
Exactly. And you still have to go through the permitting process. You still have to get health department approval. You have to do all the things that you would normally have to do for construction. And, that they have their own method of monitoring that and checking up on it. And they have their own restrictions associated with receiving those monies. So mostly, I think the concern that we were hearing was enforcement. How are we going to
Not have
enforce
people
that
build ADUs and become
they're
hotels,
using Right.
That's really it. So we do have a few ideas, I'm percolating about that, and I will just have to see where that conversation leads us. Also, there was brought up that we're accepting the housing plan tonight, and that we should perhaps wait to do that so that the consultants that we've now hired for the comprehensive plan could weigh in on the housing plan. But Meg and I sort of rejected that as a suggestion, just because that the housing plan is not just the product of a consultant's thought, it was the product also of a community outreach, of,
another committee that dedicated a significant amount of time to it. And it would kind of be inappropriate to have another consultant analyze
and
something that's already been completed with public input, with,
so we,
go through the appropriate process.
right, our sort of answer to that was if the new consultant, and when they get to when we do the housing chapter, if the comp plan consultant has questions or concerns, or it bubbles up from the community, questions and concerns about the housing plan, there is a way to put that in the actions
Yeah.
or challenges of the comp plan. There's a way to do that in the chapter itself that we are creating, that the housing plan is part of. Furthermore, we mentioned that really the housing plan has to be updated every 5 years. So again, if there's something in the house plan, in the comp plan, that, maybe, and it really, I don't have a vision of how big a thing it could be. I don't think it could be. Anyway, we have the opportunity, not only in 5 years, but we can alter the housing plan prior to that, but it's really better to do it on a 5-year cycle. So I think it's noteworthy that that was brought up, because it's a concern. But I think it's also noteworthy that we think that we're safe from that clash, potential.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another question that came up was a pos deck versus negative deck of a comp.
That was, yeah.
So that question came up because in the consultant's proposal, when it comes to their billing, they were explaining that this proposal here assumes a neg deck, meaning that it doesn't need a full comprehensive secret review, GEIS, the whole thing. And they even noted that would be an addition, covered under an additional contract. And so people misread that. They assume, they misconstrued that to think that no matter what, we were going to get an automatic neg deck. And that's not, and that's not the case. It's just, that's the billing. Like when they're doing the billing, it's a whole nother beast to do a full pause deck
Meg explained.
environmental analysis.
Comp plan that would come up with a pause deck is a bad comp plan.
Yeah.
So, why would you want something that's gonna have a negative environmental impact?
A significant negative environmental
It
impact.
might have a significant environmental impact, but the goal is to make that possible,
Yeah, exactly, of course. Yeah.
So that would be like another reason why that interpretation of the consultant's paragraph was completely sort of off base,
Right.
is what we thought. So just kind of want to answer that in a way that.
Well, they had to put it in to cover themselves.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
if they get a pause deck, then it's a whole nother year's worth of work and
Yeah.
another big bill, so. So the goal is to, of course, develop a comprehensive plan that is in keeping with the character of the island and improves the quality of the island, not negatively impacts it environmentally. So,
Development run amok.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
that's it, that's what I got.
Amber?
We had a website committee meeting this morning, and actually a comp plan came up because I guess something that was discussed was having a separate website for the comp plan. and
So-
The website committee is not big on that, so we need to know more about that.
Yeah.
because-
We'll get the consultant in touch with.
Essentially, it's something that the consultant would run. And it would just be a link from our website to the consultant's website where the community can specifically talk about carbon. So it's something that came up in their presentation to us as something they've used before.
So they have a template.
So they have a whole template and everything, and then we'd coordinate internally how to make it work.
Yeah,
But-
because having like yet another town sponsored website just seems
No,
like
we were hoping for a button.
it should.
It would essentially be, you go to the comp plan button and it automatically takes you to a website they manage. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
or something.
Kevin needs
There's,
to be involved.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
So I just wanted to throw that out there. because
Yeah.
It's probably like the hot button items on our website. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, it's like, who's going wrong?
Oh, we are.
Are you surprised?
I know, it's okay.
For the Association of Towns was the other big thing
Yeah.
around the past week, and so I was looking through, like, what did I go, what to bring back to all of you, and I did a lot of stuff that was kind of like in trouble, like debt issuance. That was a class that I attended, if we do at some point do debt issuance to do, some of the bigger projects, out in the future, wanted to be up to speed on that. Collective bargaining was another one that I went to. Records management was
Yep.
another one that I went to. I did go to something, role in economic development, so that when you're working on that piece in the comp plan, just some thoughts to bring to that. And then a couple of the sessions dealt with ADUs and also the governor's
Proposal.
initiative that's in her budget, which is kind of the wrong place for that to be. But just the two different sessions that I attended, plus the general session when they were talking about the governor's initiative to impose new housing on all of New York State, 3% in Long Island, downstate region. Just everyone it's taking away home rule. It hasn't, it gives the governor and this group that would be looking at things the option to override our zoning laws and home rule. So
On Shelter Island, that would be 75 plus units in
80
3 years?
Yeah, 80 units is what I did the calculation.
3 years.
So yeah, I put a letter to the editor this week, I think maybe it'll go in, just asking people to contact Hochul and, Fred Thiel, who is opposed to it, Anthony, Senator Palumbo, opposed to it, just to we don't want this for our community, if we have people in the community right now who are worried about high density and that we're promoting high density when we're trying to get 4 units someplace where, 2 by rights.
Right.
The governor's proposal would be pushing way beyond that.
Oh, way beyond.
So,
We would-
Yeah,
Yeah,
With that-
hopefully it goes
there was an
down, but
interesting
we-
article yesterday in Newsday about this.
Yeah.
And actually, aside from the whole home rule concept, Fred Thiel felt very strongly that it could destroy the Democratic Party in New York.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he reiterated that at the pep.
And to,
Same thing.
just at the legislative meeting on Wednesday, the overwhelming majority of the association voted to
Oppose it.
Oppose this, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully it will go down, but just wanted, like, that was sort of, I think of all the topics, that was like the biggest hot button issue. You know, not that I'm opposed, like, I want.
No, the
you know,
concept is right.
Community
It's just-
housing, but just
yeah.
not forced down our throats this
Right,
way.
right,
And
yeah.
not that we don't have control.
I don't think that's gonna be a big stumbling block. No.
You know, people don't trust the town board, do we really want to trust the governor's
that
task
far
force
removed.
to like,
And let's just face it, Suffolk County Health Department, depending on what side of the transaction you're on, is your friend or not. In this case, would very much be our friend, you know,
but then again, they have pressure put on them to.
it's from the sound off.
But also, you know, the health department does grant variances. So would
Yes.
they have pressure to grant variances that we would
Would
not
not
necessarily
be-
be in agreement
Yeah.
with? So,
Yeah.
And what's important about this is that the 82 houses or 83 houses, whatever it's going to be, it's not community housing. It's market rate and
yes,
you
yeah,
know,
it's
you-
not community.
Oh,
It's a combination of market rate and affordable and essentially any new housing. It's just to increase housing stock. Doesn't mean
Correct.
affordable housing stock.
oh, no,
correct, like
no.
you get a benefit. I think it's equivalent to 2 units if you do community housing versus 1 for market rate. But it's very scary because if you do not meet your quota in 3 years, you can bypass, as Amber said, local zoning, go right to the state, and they'll rubber stamp it for developers. So this is a very scary,
Yeah.
compact that she's come up with. And as Amber said, to sneak it into the budget,
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep. Well, I did collective bargaining and I also did, there you go. That might have had a
You
handout.
did the fire department one.
Management of, or evaluation of personnel.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I guess they had a handout.
Progressive discipline.
That's it.
Yes. I'm like,
Progressive discipline, you also did the fire department,
Yeah.
saving our volunteer fire services.
Yeah.
What-
That
Yeah.
one was actually interesting. So I went, last night, the fire commissioners had a meeting, so I told them about that.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think that the reason it was at Association of Towns, which fire districts don't go to, was just that towns, in order not to lose their fire services and ambulance squads, was promoting, like, helping them bring
Incentives.
in trainers. No, not even the incentives.
Oh.
He said it's not really the incentives, because LoSAP's being offered, and like, someone who's in their, 20s, are they really interested in, like, thinking about, like, LoSAP when I retire? Like, is that the incentive for me to train now? It's not usually that. It's like they want to, they want to fight fires. They want to do something. And so it was more like making sure that they're getting trained properly, because that's what they really want to do. And our fire district does a good job with the training. But also just maybe bifurcating. Like, if someone wants to fight fires and go to drills, why are you forcing them to go around and, sell tickets for the chicken barbecue? Like, get other volunteers to do that, so that those who really want to, like, fight fires, and we need those firemen, aren't the ones who need to take on these other tasks that they're not really interested in. So,
Forced entry, that's the March training class up at Gatling.
Smashing down doors.
so like fun, come on. For some people, yes. Yes. So anyway, so it just, there were a lot of different interesting classes.
And it was, we went to one on, Shoulders of the Road that was
yes.
Yes.
lightning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
I went to 2 on the ADUs, the shoulders of the road, the budget, did one on budgeting, did one on the records management.
Yeah. Oh, and Green Hill Campbell is retiring in a year.
Yeah.
So we have to like lean on her, like she is the guru for records archive, so,
Right.
and any questions you have, Amber, in doing anything,
Yeah.
like she's willing to help, and yeah.
Yeah. So we talked to her a little bit about updating and digitizing and archiving. And so that was a fun conversation. And then what else? I did a whole bunch of stuff.
I think one of the interesting things I found out was Stephen really does know a guy. Because a couple of people said, "Oh, I've been in touch with your town attorney."
Known internationally.
Stephen, anything you want to, I don't know, things you kind of had, you in the building department had things you had to sit in on, but
Yeah, there were a couple things that were extremely helpful, and then others that really didn't pertain to what we do here that we had to sit through for CLE credits.
Right.
But they do an amazing job, the Association of Towns, and the breadth of the topics they cover is amazing. And I snuck out of a couple of mine midstream, like one that was dealing with cannabis, and went into the land use zoning case law update, which you would think would be a requirement
Right.
for CLE credits for attorneys, but it wasn't. So I, ran over there, and I know that it's great for networking. I met some other town attorneys there and saw the local guys, in East Hampton, Southampton. So that's good. And, we chatted. But then also, the exhibitors are great, not just the swag. Jerry got a free pair of socks, but not just that, but but just to see the different technologies that are out there that this town can employ. It's definitely well worth it every year.
And we made a lot of connections in the,
Yeah.
the vendors.
And we
always important.
spent each morning going through and looking at the agenda because there were so many conflicting classes, like, okay, you go to this one, I'll go to this one, you cover that one, so that we did try and get as much out of it as possible.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, Stephen, you have anything else?
No, Mrs. Supervisor.
Amber, you have anything? Christina, anything you missed? Okay, we do have a town board meeting tonight. I'm going to open it up to the public now. Any questions or comments?
They don't, I have one other little thing, just want to mention.
Okay, we're waiting for a hand to raise. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that, Fred talked last week at the meeting. They just received the governor's budget about a week and a half ago. 95% of it they have agreed upon. It's that 5% that takes forever to crack. Last year, they approved the budget on April 9th. They're hoping to beat that and try, the deadline, of course, is April 1st. But last year was April 9th. And some of the sticking points for Suffolk County funding, number one is the Western Suffolk consolidation of 3 water districts into one. So they have 3 separate water districts in the western part of the county, and they're consolidating it into one. Second one is on WQI funding for the next 30 years, which is very important to the Suffolk County. And the third one was the proposed 1/8 of a 1% sales tax aimed at reducing nitrogen within the county. Those are the 3 things that he talked about. He said the budget pretty much is a standard budget. Last year's budget was very good to us because of a lot of reasons. This year it's a more conservative budget, as he used his words. The governor has $24 billion in for education, $1 billion in for mental health, the housing, obviously, for the 800,000 new homes, which is very controversial, which he poo-pooed. Healthcare and hospital improvements, $1 billion, and climate change and green initiatives, $30 billion. And one of the things, since there's a lot of money out there for green options, maybe did we ever apply for the green options community kind of thing? Remember
Yes.
we went through
Yeah,
the,
we started the process.
We started the process.
We are a community. Some of it was just not applicable to us. The aggregate,
The CCA,
community aggregator,
yeah.
with that, which is,
Aggregation.
getting cheap electricity. It's just, I mean, we spoke with Chris,
Edward Carey.
Ed Carey, who was there representing the company, and he said it really wouldn't apply to Shelter Island.
Yeah.
But we are part of the consortium.
but that money, when I saw $30 billion for climate change and green initiatives.
Yeah.
That is that's beyond education. That's the number one,
Yeah.
could be the number one thing in the budget. So I think we should alert ourselves to the fact that there's money out there for both of those things. A lot of climate change kind of things that we could use in our mitigation plan, and also these green initiatives that we should investigate those high and low for those kinds of
Yeah.
possible fundings.
So like you said, we're doing it with hazard mitigation.
Yeah.
We're doing it with the electric vehicles, where Brian's, Joe, talking with solar
Maybe have Jennifer
people.
just take a look at a detailed look at, how that, if any parts of that could, how that could, we could best
Right.
utilize that.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about, Jim. We were trying to accumulate points, Green Options Committee
Yes,
had worked on
right,
that.
yep.
And so we got a certain number of points, but it was like the first 10 or
Yes.
whatever communities that got it,
Right.
got the funding.
Right,
And so I think by the time we got all of our points, that funding had run out already.
okay. It
But-
seems like a lot of money
Yes.
that's in here.
Yeah.
Maybe Brian needs to be appraised of this for the recycling center. We're talking about possible incinerator type of
Right.
thing,
Yep.
So I think the state budget has never been larger for those two areas. So it's just something that he brought up that I think is worthwhile looking at.
I think one of the beauties of Jen is, she'll say that these are things available if you, rather than,
You having to ask.
yeah.
Although what we're trying to do with capital planning and grants is look at what our needs are.
Right.
And so rather than shoehorning into an available
right,
grant, something
right.
that may not be a
Yes.
priority for us,
Right.
like queue ourselves up for
Yep.
being, like, so when something does come out. But I mean, she should, she always does look and make,
The other thing they did mention there at this meeting was the septic maintenance support program. They got $45,000 it's a small thing for the county through the EPA 320 FY '23 funds. And then we have an additional, we have $50,000 through the low middle income household, 50,000, additional 45,000. County has $95,000 available for years 4 and 5 for the maintenance. Remember, the maintenance is good for 3 years. So they do have monies available, but you have to economically qualify for it. They have it in their system. So I said to them, how do you alert somebody that, no, they said, no, it's in the system. We're going to alert them. So if they financially qualify for years 4 and 5, we'll do the maintenance for them for year 4 and 5 if they've already had a system put in.
Right.
All right.
And just real quick, on the governor's budget is what Fred said, they agree on 90% of it. The sticking point is the governor's housing
Yeah,
proposal.
that is the sticking
And,
point.
they're gonna, it's not, money's for this, that, or the other thing. It's, we don't want this,
Right.
so that's it.
But the money that we got last year through PEP increased dramatically. We're not going to get another significant increase, but we're going to get at least what we got last year, if not more. Fred Field is such a key person in that budget process. He's
Yeah.
such a key person.
But Julie, do you have anything for us?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, and last chance, anybody else?
I did email you the stuff that I said I'd email you to Julia and Julie. So I did email you that stuff already.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, I'm gonna make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.
You put the heat on.